Okay, this is the P2 paper from January 2023. It's the first question, and it's, as we scan down here, a trapezium rule question. So let's start off by just reminding you what the trapezium rule does. The trapezium rule, in effect, breaks this into lots of trapeziums, sums the area of all of them to give us an estimation for the area under the curve, the area between the curve and the x-axis. So what have we got with this one? They've given us this function fx. In the table, they've told me what all of these values are. And then what they've said is, can we obtain an estimate for the integral between 1 and minus 1, which is going to be, as we said, this area here underneath this curve, but between the values of 1 and minus 1. So how do we do it? Well, let's find a bit of space to do part A. The trapezium rule is basically going to say that the integral between 1 and minus 1 of fx dx is going to be equal to, and the formula is h over 2, the first y value and the last y value, and then two lots of all the other y values, y1, y2, y3, and so on and so on. Let's go back to our table and say what they are then. So in this particular case, this would be y0, y1, y2, y3, and I'm doing this all the way up to y4. What's my h? My h is the gap here. Each time will be a consistent gap. It's 0.5 in this question. So it's just a matter of subbing everything into that. So I've got 0.5 over 2. The first one and the last one are 2.287 plus, and then we're just going to fill them all in. So 2.834. Two lots of the other ones, 4.470. You can go back and look at the table if you need to. 6.719 and 7.291. And then it's just a matter of plugging all that in. Works out to be 10.52 units squared. So that's an approximation for that area that I've just shaded in there, an estimate for the integral. And it says giving the answer to 2 decimal places, so make sure you do that accurately. And then, they quite often do these sorts of things here. What I should be able to do is to use the answer I've just done and be able to look at whatever the transformations are here and make some sort of adaptation. Let's look at the first one. So the first one says f of x minus 2. I'm looking here. F of x minus 2 written down like that. Well, what does that do? That moves the graph down by 2 units. So if I'm going to move this graph down by 2 units, what I'm going to do is this whole thing is going to shift down by 2 units. Well, if it does that, then hopefully what you can see is, I'm going to lose that area from my previous one. So if you actually think about what's going to happen, that's the area that I'm going to have left now, that purple area there. But what I'm doing is I'm actually subtracting this red area. Well, what is this red area? Well, I know that's 1 and that's 1. And if I know I've moved it down here, I know that that's 2. So this is an area of 2 by 2. This bit here, this red bit, which is in effect what I'm losing, is just going to be 4 units. So let's explain this to the examiner. So B part 1, if I want the integral between 1 and minus 1 of f of x minus 2, it's all dx, but f of x minus 2, I'm going to say graph will drop down by 2 units, really just explaining it to the examiner. So we will lose a rectangle 2 by 2 equals 4 units. So this answer here is simply going to be what I had previously, which is 10.52, but then minus 4. So that's now going to be 6.52 units squared. Okay, let's have a look at part 2. What's that asking us? Part 2 is saying, what does f of x minus 2 do? Well, f of x minus 2 will shift the graph 2 units in that direction. So it's going to shift the whole area, the original thing that we had. Let's put this back. The original thing that we had now, all that's going to happen is everything is going to move 2 units in that direction. So we're just going to shift everything over by 2 units. But then, if you look at the question, because we're doing it between 1 and 3 here, we're actually ending up with exactly the same area there. Notice we're doing it between 1 and 3 here. So it's going to be exactly the same answer, but let's just explain that to the examiner. The integral between 3 and 1 of f of x minus 2 dx shift, you could say translates 2 units to the right, but shifts graph 2 units to the right. Limits have also moved 2 units. So this integral is going to be the identical area, so it's going to be the same value there. I've given a lot more information than you need to, because I'm explaining it to you guys as well as explaining it to everybody else, but those would be the 2 answers. So units squared. Yeah, those would be the 2 answers for those. And absolutely be aware of this sort of thing being on the end of a trapezium rule question. The first part normally is relatively straightforward, but then actually doing that second part can take a little bit of work. Only 3 marks in total for it, so don't spend too long on it. But hopefully my explanation, although it was a bit longer, hopefully that all makes sense to you.